Welcome back to The Book Stop. I'm so excited to talk about today's episode. Fair warning moving forward, this podcast does contain spoilers as we go over major events within the novels. Before we get into it, don't forget to follow us on Apple, Spotify, and Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, ready to jump into another episode, and everybody, welcome back to The Book Stop.
Yes, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is your first episode, so that's exciting. Hopefully many more in the future.
Yes, I hope so.
All right, today we have my friend Kamille. What book did you bring for us to talk about today?
I brought It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover.
Why did you bring this specific book?
So a friend actually recommended this book to me, and she's a big reader like myself, and she said that she couldn't put it down and that I needed to read this. And so I ended up reading it a couple months ago, and I felt like there was a lot of good talking points, so I thought it'd be a good one for the episode.
Awesome. It is a good one.
For sure.
It's a lot, I will say that.
Yes.
And I'm going to put this disclaimer in here now before we even get started, is that we're going to be talking a lot about really hard subjects, like domestic abuse is a big one within this episode, and character deaths and stuff like that. So we're going to be talking about some really strong stuff. So if you're not into that, just keep that in mind. Listen to another one if you don't want to listen to this one. Totally get it. A little bit about the author before we even get into it. So this book, It Ends With Us, is actually written by Colleen Hoover. This is actually my second book on the podcast of her. So I read Verity, which was that was a mind twister. Have you read that one yet?
No, I really wanted to, but I haven't yet. But it's definitely next on my list, so.
Okay, yeah. That one, you really have to keep an open mind when you jump into that one, because it just deals with so much. Like, this book is like a children's book compared to that one. It's it's absolutely crazy.
I can't imagine. I'm excited to read it though.
Colleen Hoover, so she has her own little website. I was on there this morning and it's so cute. I love how she designed it, and if you go on there right now, they have discounted books under $10. So
I didn't even know that. That's nice to know.
There was like a little interview, and she said that this book was her hardest book she's ever written. And she has like 25, 26 different books. So that just shows you like how much work was put into this one. And this book won the 2016 Goodreads Choice Awards, too. I think that's pretty cool. Good for her.
Yeah, go Colleen.
Go Colleen. I was also reading that when she was writing this book, Lily and Ryle, who are going to be our characters we're going to talk a lot about, she based their relationship off of her parents' own relationship.
Yeah.
So that adds a little bit of sadness to the story.
Yeah, and I didn't even know that until I looked at the author's note at the end, and then it just made it like that more sad for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna play a little game to start us out.
Okay.
So you are going to describe this book in 30 seconds.
Okay.
But the twist is you have to write it as if this was a letter to Ellen.
So, Dear Ellen, this story is about a girl whose father is physically abusive to her mother, and she says that she's never going to be in a relationship like that, but then as she gets older, she falls in love with this guy, and things take a turn for the worse. And that's just about her story of their relationship. Sincerely, Kamille.
I love it. I think you did a great job, and I'm sure Ellen is waiting for that letter.
Slide into her DMs.
Alright, I'm going to summarize this book to anybody like myself that had absolutely no idea what I was getting into. I didn't look up anything about it, so I'm just going to summarize it really quick. 23-year-old business graduate Lily Bloom grew up in an abusive family and fell in love with a homeless boy when she was 15. But Lily has left that life behind and opens her own flower shop in Boston. She meets Ryle Kincaid, a successful neurosurgeon. Sparks fly, but Ryle is against relationships and a future. They work past their differences and fall in love. After they are married, Ryle changes, and not for the better. She has always said that she will never follow in the footsteps of her parents, but she never imagined how hard leaving is. Atlas returns in her life, but maybe it's a little too late. Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start.
There's so much, so it's like, where to even begin?
Yeah, this book is very dense. Like, there's a lot of things that happen, and we're definitely not going to hit all of the topics for sure. So, but I guess to get us started, let's do our favorite quotes to get us going. So, what did you bring today?
Yeah, I brought a quote that's actually at the end of, I think, like chapter 25, and it says, I think of all the people who have been in this situation before me, everyone who will be in this situation after me. Do we all repeat the same words in our heads in the days after experiencing abuse at the hands of those who love us? From this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and health, until death do us apart. Maybe those vows weren't meant to be taken as literally as some spouses take them. For better, for worse, fuck that shit.
All right. You know, her relationship with Ryle felt so fast, but at the same time, it kind of took its time. We had those big chunks of times that we didn't see any interaction at all, like the 6 months where she didn't see him at all. So when they were together, everything felt so fast. Like, they got married and, you know, they moved in together and, like, everything happened so fast. So I feel like with her jumping into this marriage, it felt like maybe their relationship wasn't as strong as they thought it was.
Yeah, and there is a part, I think, when they were on their way to Vegas to get married that kind of, like, made me laugh. On the plane ride, they were, like, talking about things like, oh, is kids still open for discussion? Or, like, what do you think about this? And this, like, heavy topics that you should probably talk about before you're on your way to get married. So that, I think, was just, like, a testament to show, like, kind of how a whirlwind their relation, like, they had for their relationship. And that they probably weren't ready to get married when they did. So
their entire relationship, I would describe it as like a whirlwind. Like, everything's crazy, fast, chaotic in a lot of reasons. So when they got married, I was shocked. I was like, wow, I can't believe they're actually doing this right now.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. And then everything's so up and down with them. Like, a couple times she comments like, oh, this is the best day of my life. And then it turns into the worst day of her life. So it's very just up and down, unstable with their relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually brought 2 quotes today. Lily Blue is our main character, and she has this very special connection with plants and, like, flowers and greenery, stuff like that. She feels like that was, like, her connection to a lot of people, Atlas being one of them. So there's this one line that Atlas actually says, and he says, plants need to be loved the right way to survive, and so do humans. And I really like the relationship that she has, that this is kind of what bonds her to Atlas, but at the same time, Lily has never really had any good role models. Like, she doesn't have anybody in her family, in her life, that was somebody that she can kind of look up to. But so I think that this relationship with plants was her role model, which is, like, a weird thing to say, but...
Yes. Yeah, because I think it, like, showed her that, like, oh, if I give this plant love, like, then it'll turn into something beautiful. Like, she comments it'll turn into, like, vegetables or flowers. So she was like, maybe with humans, like, that would be the same way. So I think it is, like, it's her role model of love, because she doesn't have that, like, human role model, which is really sad.
Yeah, and if, like, you neglect plants and you don't take care of them, then they die.
Exactly.
You have to give this special attention to these things as well as people to be able to show that you love them. So
yeah, and I did like that moment that her and Atlas had when they were having that conversation. I thought that was really sweet.
And then my other favorite quote is, people spend so much time wondering why women don't leave. Where are all the people wondering why the men are so abusive? I totally understand this line, and I agree. I 100% agree. But I don't like the wording of that line. So I don't think it's just women, obviously, that get abused. So I wish that line would have been kind of more open, more broad.
Yeah, just change women to people, you know, instead of making it gender specific. Like, why not just make it a neutral term? Because, yeah, I mean, domestic abuse happens to both women and men, so.
Yeah. Let's jump into it. Let's jump into this book.
Let's do it.
So the first thing I want to talk about is, so what did you like about this book and what didn't you like about this book?
I liked it was very fast-paced. It was easy to read because I feel like there was a lot going on. And so, I mean, I finished it the first time. I actually read it twice, but the first time I finished it in like 3 days. So I really liked that. I also liked built up to like that major twist that came towards like the end of the book. And so I thought that was nicely done. The things I didn't like so much, I mean, I love, like, her and Atlas's relationship, but I feel like Atlas could have been developed more as a character. I just felt like he was kind of stagnant. Like, I like him, don't get me wrong, but I felt like he could have just been developed a little bit more. So that was, like, the one thing that I didn't like as much, but as far as everything else, I feel like I really liked this book, and that was, like, my one, like, major complaint that I had with it.
Okay. That is so interesting, because I said that Atlas was the most developed character.
Oh, really?
So, my biggest complaint that Lily felt very flat, which is weird, because she got the most, obviously the most detail, the most background, but just her reactions, her responses, and everything, like, the way that she was, even when she was alone and had her own thought process, she felt very flat to me. I'm not sure why. I guess I just didn't connect to her very well. I don't know, I really liked Atlas. I thought that he was very strong-willed. He had a very compelling background. I agree, I wish we did get a little bit more. I wanted to know more about him. And I don't know, I think he had a good depth. Like, you could see how much he really cared about Lily and like their connection. And obviously Ryle hated that man.
Oh, yes.
I hated Ryle from the very beginning, from page like 20. The second he was introduced, I hated him.
Yeah, I definitely had some bad vibes about him, but I was like, oh, maybe this is, maybe he'll turn out to be good after all. But I knew something was off with him, and then sure enough, we know how it ends. So, yeah.
It was funny because she said in her interview that she wanted the readers to fall in love with Ryle like Lily did. They want it to be quick and like sudden, irreplaceable love, but I don't know, I didn't feel that way with him. I found him very toxic. Like, every time he was around her, I didn't like him. And he felt very selfish. I will give him, though, that he told her from the beginning that he didn't want a future, he didn't want kids, he didn't want to get married.
Right.
So I will give him that. He did at least warn her about all this stuff. But Lily and Ryle's relationship felt kind of forced in some places.
I kind of felt the same way, and he gave me some red flags towards the beginning. Like, I think when he goes to, like, all of the floors in her apartment, like, looking for her apartment, like, I don't think that's something, like, a normal guy would do. So, like, that kind of, like, raised a red flag, like, oh, this guy's not gonna be good. And just, like, a couple other things he did in the beginning, I was just like, this guy's bad news.
Yeah.
So I had my guards up with him, for sure.
I didn't like their relationship that much. I don't know if it ever really got better. I feel like from the beginning it was just very forced to me. So maybe I was just reading too much into it, though.
No, I would agree. I kind of also had that feeling that it was a forced relationship from the beginning, so.
Because it was pretty much begging her to, like, have a one-night stand, and she was pretty much like, no, I don't do that. Either, like, you want to be in a relationship with me or don't come around me. And good for her for standing up for herself. Which is another thing about Lily is, like, I think she's a strong character because she does stand up for herself all the time. It's a little bit flat. I wish there was a little bit more character within her.
Yeah, and I was thinking even back to, like, Atlas, I think it would have been interesting if maybe they, like, switched off perspectives, like, throughout the book, so we'd get a little bit more background on Atlas, too, and maybe that would help me think that he was a more developed character, but, yeah, I agree, Lily did feel flat to me at sometimes, too. Yeah, like, her reactions, like, weren't, I don't know, like, how to phrase it, like, they weren't, like, what I was expecting, they just,
Okay, some things I did like about the story. I like the difference between... So, obviously, this story is very much like love versus lust.
Yes.
Where she loved Atlas and she lusted over Ryle. So, I did like that. I think that told a good story, and that we had that little love triangle. Kind of. It wasn't really a love triangle, because she never really, like, pursued Atlas when she was with Ryle, even though Ryle thought she was cheating on him, which... I hated that whole section about, like, literally nothing happened.
Right. Yeah, threw a temper tantrum. Yeah.
Yeah. But I did like the little love triangle. Definitely created suspense. You didn't really know where the story was going. You didn't know how she was going to react. You didn't know like how Ryle was going to react. You didn't really know what was going to happen.
Yeah, I also liked that. It was like kind of like a cliffhanger like throughout the book. So I enjoyed that kind of suspense of not knowing like what was going to happen next. And with the whole love triangle situation, because Atlas said, like, when she saw him again, that he had a girlfriend for a year. So it makes me think, if he didn't say that, like, would she have pursued Atlas? So I feel like that would have been an interesting twist, too, if she and Atlas kind of had this thing when he was reintroduced back into her life. So
when she saw Atlas again, it was like the very beginning of their quote-unquote relationship. They weren't seeing anything. It was like a trial area. So she said in there that if she would have met Atlas again, and he would have said, I'm not seeing anybody, I've been waiting for you, she said she would have dropped Ryle right then and there. Like, she would have never gave him a second thought. She would have been with Atlas.
Yeah.
Which should have happened, but...
Exactly. And I guess we'll never know, because maybe she thought that way, but then if it actually happened, like, would she actually drop Ryle? Because they were starting to form a connection at that point. So maybe it was easier for her to say
that because of everything that was going on. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
That kind of brings me to my next point, is like how much communication is so important in any relationship. It would have solved so much if they would have just talked to each other.
Exactly.
Literally any character. Pick one, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, that's so true. And like what comes to mind for me is obviously with like Ryle and Lily, and
yes,
she could have explained like this past that she had with Atlas and that this connection that she shared with him, but like obviously now they haven't talked to each other in years, so, and that could have helped Ryle to understand and maybe not blow up and like have these moments. So that's like the biggest one that stands out to me in the form of communication. And also with Ryle like sharing with her earlier on about his past and what happened in his childhood, I feel like that's something that probably should have been brought up before they were married. So
yeah, his sister had to force him to tell Lily about what happened. It's like, no, be an adult, be a grown man.
Exactly. And I mean, that's a huge thing. Like, I can understand that's gonna mess you up for life, but like the people who are closest to you like, need to know those things. So
especially if you're married to them.
Right. Yeah.
Like, your spouse should know these things.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's about what you said earlier, how they didn't even have their big, deep and meaningful talk until they were on the plane to Vegas to get married.
Right.
Okay, I will give them, they did do their naked truths, and yes, that was cute here and there, but you shouldn't have to have a reason to be honest with somebody and to talk about it. You don't need to be like, well, I guess if I'm giving you a naked truth, I have to give you one about myself. No, just...
Exactly.
It's not a compromise. It's not... If you're in a relationship with somebody, you should be honest with them. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have every single secret about yourself out in the open. But this is the one person you're supposed to trust with, like, everything. So you should be honest with them.
Right. And just the fact that, like, they call them naked truths, I'm like, no, like, you literally should be honest with somebody, like, at all times. So, like, you should be telling naked truths at all times. Yeah. Because it's like, isn't that what a relationship is? It's just being honest with one another. So,
yeah.
That was strange.
Yeah, I liked it at the very, very beginning. Like, the day that they met was on Lily's dad's funeral.
Yeah.
Which she did the eulogy. Slay. I'm gonna say it. That was good. I liked that.
I was just like, hell yeah, girl. Like, you get it. And the fact that, like, her mom, even, like, towards the end, she's like, that was the most proud of you that I've ever been.
To basically summarize it, her dad was a very awful man, and he did pass at the beginning of the story, and for the eulogy that she didn't want to do, her mom forced her to do, she stood at the front, and she said, these were the top best memories I have of my dad, and then stood there for 2.5 minutes and didn't say a single thing, but just stared at the audience. I was like, I get behind this.
Yeah, I loved it. Like, that was probably one of my favorite things about the book was, like, that eulogy. It was just so badass.
Yeah. So yeah, let's jump into our favorite characters. So who is your favorite?
I really loved Elisa. She was probably my favorite because she was there for Lily. Like, even though her brother was doing these awful things, she was really there for her and was a good support system for her. And she also, like, could have deep conversations with her, but then she'd also just, like, switch and say these, like, hilarious things. And and so I really enjoyed that about her because I feel like I relate to that because that's, like, myself sometimes. So, yeah, I think Elisa was my favorite.
Yeah, Elisa's awesome. She was kind of the comedic humor in this dark book. So, and she was definitely the light in Lily's eyes. And my favorite scene with her is she finds out that Lily's pregnant and finds out that everything's going on. And she's like, I love my brother, but I will never speak to you again if you get back together with him. Yeah. And I'm just like, literally slay queen.
Yes.
Yeah, I really liked her too. She was solid. That kind of right there solidified, okay, she's the better sibling for sure.
Exactly.
I said my favorite character was Atlas. I felt, like, really drawn to him. I think that I just really liked how much he genuinely cared about Lily when it felt like no one else really did, especially when they were younger. And I liked all the flashbacks that we got, which, little sidebar, so all the flashbacks that we get in the story is from these letters that Lily writes to Ellen DeGeneres. And she's reading them present tense, so we get, like, little flashbacks. And we see Atlas only through these letters, so we only see Atlas through Lily's eyes. So I feel like if we would have saw, like, his point of view or, like, her point of view at the time, it would have been a little bit different. So I really like Atlas because I feel like he was somebody that Lily really needed in his life. And there's a line that says, "We never really dated. We were just two people that needed each other and our hearts just fused along the way."
Yes.
I see them more as, like, soulmates, let's say. That they were kind of destined to see each other.
Exactly. And they were each other's rocks, like, when they needed each other the most when they were younger. And so I really did enjoy their relationship.
They literally saved each other. Like, she saved him. He was homeless and lived in the abandoned house across the street. He saved her from her dad.
Yeah, and there was even a point where Atlas shares that, like, he was going to that house to commit suicide, and then he looked over at her house and, like, saw the bedroom light turn on, and there she was, and he viewed that as, like, her being his angel and, like, saving his life.
Yeah. Like we said earlier, it's a whirlwind. Everything happens so fast. It's like a span of a couple of years, I want to say. But everything just seems like it's bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, everything does happen really quickly. And I did like listening to the audiobook again just so I could get, like, a better feel of, like, the relationships and the characters and stuff.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend rereading.
All right, so let's jump into the meat of the story, which is going to be her mom and her dad's relationship and how they kind of reflect onto Lily and Ryle's relationship. Lily's dad, first of all, was a mayor of the town. Had no idea.
Right. And how that happened, I have no idea because he's literally god-awful, so...
Yeah. I feel like that definitely, though, adds a lot more pressure onto the family. And it makes a lot more sense of why her mom reacted the way that she did. Anytime that, you know, he was physically assaulting her, she would just be like, don't say anything, don't call the police, let's just keep it on the down low, because of his image in the town and stuff. So I don't want to say it corrects anything, because it's definitely not right. There's literally not a single sliver of excuse of why you should be doing anything like that. But
exactly.
I guess, like, for storytelling wise, it kind of fits in there.
Yeah, exactly. And I can agree with that. I can see why it would make it more difficult to, like, you know, go to police about the abuse and things like that. But at the same time, like, I was like, I wouldn't care. I'd just go ahead and tell the police and be like, I don't care if your image gets ruined or not. But I know, like, it's easier said than done. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was like, let your image be ruined. Let your reputation be ruined. I don't care.
you're doing it to yourself. You're ruining your own reputation. So.
Right.
Lily, I guess she was kind of like the eye of the storm. Like, she always would say, like, whenever my dad was doing this stuff to my mom, every time I stepped in, he would stop. Which I found kind of interesting, that he was doing these things, but he didn't want Lily to see. Even though she obviously knew what was going on, but he didn't want her to be, like, in the middle of it.
Yeah, that was interesting to me. But it's like, yeah, she could hear, and, like, you know, so she knew what was happening. So whether she saw it or not, and towards, like, later on, she does actually see it. And so
Ryle and Lily, so their relationship started out a lot of passion, a lot of not really thinking about anything, just doing it.
Right.
And the first, like, moment where we see Ryle's anger shine through is, so he's a neurosurgeon. He's been going to school for eons of years, and they were having, like, date night at home, and he went to, like, go grab something.
Yeah, it was like the casserole.
And then he ends up burning his hands. And obviously his hands are his everything. Just think of, like, Doctor Strange. Just like that aspect.
Exactly.
And she, like, starts laughing, so he ends up, like, pushing her down, and she hits her head, like, really hard. And the first time this happened, she said, "This will never happen again. If you ever put your hands on me again, I will leave you, and I won't even give you another second thought."
Exactly.
And then it happens again because he thinks that she's cheating on him with Atlas because they meet at a restaurant that he owns, and he pushes her down the stairs. He, like, sits there and he's begging. He's like, "Please don't leave. It was an accident. I didn't even know I hit you." Like, all this kind of stuff. Excuses, of course.
Yeah.
And she gave him another shot because she was like, "I understand." That's when he tells her his past and how he has, like, anger issues. And she's like, "Next time you need to walk away."
She actually, like, dismisses it in her mind. Like, she talks about, she's like, "Oh, well, he was just angry because he thought I was cheating on him." So, like, you know, it's, like, a valid excuse for, like, why he did this. But it's like, no, it's not valid. So, yeah, so it's, like, the first few times, like, she dismisses it in her mind and thinks, like, "Oh, well, he did this because of blah, blah, blah."
There's always an excuse, but it's being able to know that those excuses aren't valid. For this situation, there's absolutely nothing you can say that makes it okay.
And it made me so mad the second time, like, when he pushes her down the stairs, which obviously she goes unconscious, and then she wakes back up and is like, "What the fuck is happening to me?" And then he kept saying, like, "Oh, you fell. And then later she remembers, she's like,
gaslighting her.
Yeah, she's like, "No, you pushed me. I didn't fall." That made me so mad when he kept saying that to her.
So the next thing I want to talk about, I'll label it as that night, where everything goes down, and it's kind of the absolute last straw.
Yeah.
To basically summarize it, this is right after Elisa. She just has her baby, and, you know, Ryle's like, "Oh my god, now I want kids." And, you know, they're already married, and the abuse has been happening for a little while now. She hasn't told anybody, and he's like, "I'm gonna go home, I have a shift, you know, just let me know when you come home." And she gets there, he's in the kitchen, drinking alcohol, of course. There's this magnet that Atlas gave her that says, isn't it like everything's better in Boston?
Better in Boston, yeah, right.
Yeah, better in Boston. Bibs, yeah, because that's what his restaurant's name is. Yep. It's called Better in Boston. He sees this magnet, figures out that it's connected to Atlas because Atlas gives it to her, like way back when they were teenagers. And he doesn't give her a second to explain. He just is on her, is doing very inappropriate things to her.
Yeah.
Something that he thinks he has the right to do just because they're married, which is not okay.
Right.
They go to the bedroom, and he starts doing inappropriate things to her, and knocks his head into hers, and, like, then he passes out. They both pass out. She finally is like, "That's it. I'm done." So she gets her stuff, she calls Atlas, goes to the hospital. That's also the night she finds out she's pregnant.
Yes.
Which is like a double whammy.
Right.
Because she's like, "I'm leaving this man. I'm getting a divorce."
Right.
And now she has this other being that's part of him that's growing inside of her. So now she's like, this situation got like 10,000 times worse.
She didn't know what she wanted to do really until she gave birth. But I mean, she was struggling whether she wanted to reconcile with him or divorce him for like throughout her entire pregnancy. And so that was really hard to read too, because she kind of kept going like back and forth.
It was sad because he didn't even know she was pregnant until probably like 7 months in, because he went to like this residency in like England or something.
Fellowship thing. Yeah, like Cambridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he doesn't know, and then he comes back and literally like walks through the door, and she's got this big belly, and then he's like, oh shit.
Yeah, my other favorite memory of her is like right when she has Emerson, and she sits there and she's looking at this little girl, and she says, I want a divorce, like straight to him. He's sitting there holding the baby, and he starts crying, and he's like, please don't do this to me. And she's like, what if this little girl looked up to you one day and said, Daddy, please stop hitting mommy? All this like really sad stuff. And I was like, oh, ouch.
I sobbed at that part because, yeah, she's like, what if like she was being abused, or what if she was like being raped by somebody she loved? Like, what would you do? And then he eventually says, like, I would tell her to leave him. Mm-hmm. And then she was like, well, there you go. And then she like holds Emerson again, and she was like, something about we're breaking the pattern now, like it ends with us. And I almost brought that quote too, because I thought that was so monumental. I mean, that's like what the book is named after, is because there's these cycles of generations of like physical abuse, and she's like, no, we're stopping that shit like right now.
I like this decision because I hate Ryle, but also you need to stop it before it gets worse.
Right.
And then in the end, you do see like they have joint custody. Like he does get to see his daughter, and then she gets together with Atlas at the end. Like it's implied. It doesn't show like they're married or anything, but it's heavily implied that they're together in the end, which I stan.
Yeah, that was a really sweet ending. And saw that was the end of the book. I was like, what the heck? Like, she doesn't even, like, go back to Atlas? Mm-hmm. And then I read the epilogue, and I was like, oh, okay. Like, the epilogue was really sweet.
So, let's jump into favorite relationships. I have already actually said mine, which is Lily and her plants. She actually owns a flower shop, which is a very weird flower shop. It, we'll talk about it in a second, but, yeah, my favorite relationship is Lily and her plants. I think they taught her life lessons for sure, and that she, you know, had these objects as role models in her life, and she trusted them. They got her up every day to get out there and water them and grow them and stuff. So I feel like, along with Atlas, in her teenage years is what got her through them.
Yeah, it's like when everything was going wrong in her world, she still had these plants to take care of, and that helped her navigate everything that was happening.
Who did you say was your favorite?
Even though I didn't think Atlas was as developed as I would like him to be, I did say Lily and Atlas for favorite relationship. Just because, like I said earlier, I mean, they are each other's rocks through thick and thin, and I just really enjoyed their relationship. I feel like it was very steady, and yeah, like you said, they both saved each other, and so that's why I chose them.
Yeah, solid. The better of the two, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I'm so happy that they ended up together in the end.
Me too. I wish there was like a spin-off or like just a sequel, I guess, but what do you write about in the sequel? But like I just wanted to see more of them like having a romantic relationship as adults.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
We'll see.
But yeah, I actually want to talk about Lily's flower shop for a second.
Yeah.
What was the name of it again?
Wasn't it like Bold and Brave? Is that right or no? Am I making that up?
I can't remember. I can't remember what it is.
I think it was Bold and Brave.
I think so. So, I didn't love the flower shop. I love the idea of it. I love that she owned her own business and stuff like that. But I felt like the flower shop kind of got in the way in a lot of scenes. So she buys this flower shop about 6 months after she meets Ryle. It felt more like just a place for her to see Ryle again, because Ryle's sister actually starts working there. She had no idea that it was his sister, but that's how they eventually meet again. And she helps her make this, I like to call it a kinky flower shop, because it's very weird. It's
very out there, yeah.
They do like steampunk, and then they did like a chains and leather type deal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's all like darker flowers, like purple and black, and
yeah. It's a very weird kink thing. Just kidding.
Yes.
But no, but it's definitely not, it's not a flower shop in the normal sense of it.
No.
So it was kind of just like filler a lot of the time, like, oh, I'm at the flower shop, I have to go to work.
I would agree with that. I mean, even when all of the stuff was happening and she goes to Atlas's, she's like, oh, well, I have to go back to, like, take care of the flower shop. Yeah, I could see why, like, it's kind of portrayed as an inconvenience at points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely support her for having a business. Like, good for her. And it did well. I don't know, I feel like it kind of got in the way in a lot of spots.
Even when she, like, breaks her ankle in the beginning and stuff, she was like, well, I have to get back on my feet because I have to open this flower shop and get it ready for, like, grand opening and stuff. It's like, you just injured yourself. Like, just relax.
Yeah. So that actually draws us to our little game that I have. Ooh. So I have a list of flowers here. Maybe some flowers that would be sold in a kinky flower shop. Who knows?
Okay.
I'm going to tell you what the meanings are, and you're going to tell me which flower it is.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. So the first meaning I have is innocence. So which flower do you think really represents innocence?
To me, I feel like it's lilies.
Lilies?
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to get a lot of these wrong, so don't judge me.
Actually, it's daisies. All right, so the next one I have is bonds of love.
Roses.
Nope.
What?
It's honeysuckles.
I wouldn't even think of... I also don't know many flowers, so, like...
I went to 4 or 5 different websites to cross-reference these, so they all said this, so I'm pretty sure that this is what the flowers are.
Okay, yeah, I'm not an expert by flowers, so I'm sorry if I'm embarrassing you.
You're not embarrassing me. I know what the answers are. Okay, next we have distrust.
Oh gosh. I'm trying to think of flowers that I haven't said. Okay, so I feel like the distrust is snapdragons.
It is lavender.
Oh my gosh.
The next one we have is first loves.
The tulip one.
No. It's lilac.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Listen, you're going to learn something on this podcast today. You're going to go out today and be like, you know what? Lilac means first love.
I'm being educated.
All right, next we have sweetness.
Sweet pea.
No, I was...
What? It's in the name!
Nope, it's lily of the valley.
Oh my gosh, okay.
All right, next we have deception.
Is that the snapdragon one?
It is.
I got one! Woo! Finally.
You did it. All right, so next, this one's a pretty easy one.
Okay.
Passion.
Okay, that's the red roses. What?
It's the red tulips.
Oh, that's what I meant. Yeah, it had red in them. That's what I meant.
Okay, got you. 2 more. You got this. So we have elegance and dignity.
I know I'm gonna get it wrong, but what the hell? I'm gonna go with Rosemary's.
No, it's dahlias.
Okay.
And then last but not least, we have remembrance, as in you're gonna remember this moment for the rest of your life.
Okay, so then that's a rosemary.
Yes, that's rosemary.
Okay. Oh,
Good
God.
job.
Well, I guess.
Wait, no, you can't work in Lily's kinky flower shop, so.
No. Good thing I'm keeping my day job, so.
So there's a couple more connections I still wanna talk about that we didn't go over, which the first one is Lily's roommate that she had at the beginning of the story, which I can't remember her name at this point.
It's Lucy.
Lucy?
Lucy, yeah.
She was utter trash.
Oh, yeah.
Literally hated her.
I did too. She was probably the most annoying character in the book.
You know what? I would go as far as saying she was the antagonist of the story.
I mean, yes, very much so.
Yeah, she literally told Lily that she was lucky that she didn't have to go to work because her dad died. That's a bit harsh.
She, came back from, after her dad's funeral, and she's like, oh, do you have to work? She's like, no, I'm off, for a week for, bereavement. And she's like, you lucky bitch. I'm like, oh my God. What? Who says that.
Yeah.
And then also, yeah, so like when she gets engaged and then like moves out, she was like sobbing, and like Lily thought something was seriously wrong, but then she just finds out she got engaged and she's moving out. And she's like, oh, I'm so happy you're okay with it, because Alex was so worried about you not letting me break my lease and whatever.
Mm-hmm. And then she makes an appearance towards the end of the story, doesn't she? I can't remember what even she was in. I just didn't like her, so anytime I saw her, I just blocked her out.
Yeah, so she actually starts working at the flower shop.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess Lily said it wasn't that bad, but I would not want her working at my business.
She would be a terrible employee. She would just be on her phone the entire time and calling off every other day.
Oh, and that's the other thing, that, so, like, when Lily breaks her ankle, and then she goes back to her apartment, and she tries calling Lucy to, like, help her get up the stairs or whatever, and then she, like, gets in the apartment after struggling all the way up there, and then Lucy's literally just on the couch talking with her boyfriend. And she's like, oh, sorry, I was going to answer your phone call, but I'm talking to Alex. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, she was awful. Don't get a roommate like her, and don't be a roommate like her.
No, it's definitely not.
But yeah, I thought she was kind of she was a pretty developed character. I thought she served her purpose, but I didn't like her.
Yeah, I mean, definitely was out there, and yeah, very irritating, to say the least.
Yeah. And then the last relationship I want to talk about, which is a pretty big one that we surprisingly haven't gotten to yet, but was Lily and her mom, which I guess in the beginning it was very interesting because we didn't really know what was going on. We were kind of just thrown into the story. So you just saw that she didn't really like her mom very much. She kind of avoided her. Her mom told her that she was going to move to Boston after her dad died, and she really didn't want that. And we didn't really get to see why. But as the story kind of went on, you get to see that she kind of starts accepting her mom because she starts seeing herself in her mom's shoes. Because she was always angry that her mom never left and that her mom kept letting it happen. Now that she was kind of in that situation, she got to be able to like reason with it and make it make more sense. So it brought her closer to her mom.
Definitely. I mean, I think she had a lot of resentment for her mom not leaving, which makes sense. I mean, I would too. But then over time, and once she's actually put in a situation that's similar to her mom, she sees that it's not as easy to leave as she thinks. Mm-hmm. And then she actually, builds understanding of her mom's situation. And that's kind of what helps bring them closer. And they do have a really sweet moment, like towards the end of the book, when she shares what's been going on with her mom. But she was so scared too because she thought her mom would just like blow her off or be like, work things out with him or whatever, since she didn't like leave.
Yeah.
But her mom was like, no, like you need to leave him. And she says a really strong quote that was, if he really loved you, he would leave you so he couldn't hurt you again.
Yeah, I really liked their relationship at the end of the book. And where, she finds out that she tells her that she's pregnant and what's going on. And she was really scared too. She was terrified to go tell her mom and to see her mom. And, she breaks down in front of her and tells her what's going on. And it was nice to see her have that support that she didn't expect that she was going to get. Like you said, she thought that she was going to be like, stay with him. It will work out. He has money, it's that kind of stuff. But she was like, no, like, you need to leave him now. Don't follow in my footsteps. Don't make the decisions that I regret.
Yeah, and I think that moment is really kind of what helps Lily gain some strength in knowing that, like, okay, like, I can do this. Like, I can leave him and have this baby. And so, yeah, that was a really nice moment to see between them.
Mm-hmm. Solid. I just like that. I liked the mom and Lily, so... All right. Anything else you want to add?
There's so much to this book that I could talk about it for hours, but I think we covered like all of the basics.
Honestly, if you haven't read it, definitely check it out. We barely scraped the surface. Speaking for an hour can't cover the 18 hours audiobook that this was.
Yeah.
Is there anything in your opinion, anything that you would have done differently, anything that you would have changed?
So a few things. I think it would have been interesting to give Atlas's perspective in the beginning, like maybe have a section where they're both teenagers and then have Atlas like share his story. And I think that would have helped me understand his development more. And then at the end, I would have liked to see her and Atlas, like, having that romantic relationship again. So I wish, like, it would have ended maybe going into that a little bit. So that was my two main things.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just said that I wish there was more development within the characters, especially our main character.
Right.
She did have a lot of strengths, but in the end, I feel like it kind of fell flat in some places.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that the connections that they made with, like, let's say for Lily and Ryle specifically, I wish it felt a little bit more natural, because I feel like that would have supported the reason why behind a lot of stuff. So
right.
I just wish it wasn't so forced. So I get, like, why she made it fast, but I didn't feel like there was much of a connection between them.
Yeah, like, I get that she kind of wanted to portray that, like, whirlwind romance, that when doing that, it kind of lacked some of the development for Lily and other characters, like you said, so I get that, for sure.
All right. So we're kind of coming to a close here. So the last thing we do on the podcast is we do a little rating scale. So I would give It Ends With Us 6 kinky flower shops out of 10. So, it's not my favorite. I probably won't read it for a second time, just because it was a lot. Colleen Hoover's writing style isn't necessarily my favorite type of writing style. Mm-hmm. And anybody that hasn't read Colleen Hoover, definitely take a minute to look up, at least the synopsis, so you can see what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. For me, let's see, I would give this book 7 kinky flower shops out of 10.
Okay.
I did enjoy it. Like, I enjoy the suspense of the book and kind of feeling that throughout the story, like not knowing what's going to happen next. And I did connect to some of the characters, even though they could have been developed more. So I think 7's where I would be at.
All right, solid. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the Book Stop. I am looking forward to our next episode. I don't think we would even have one planned. So if you guys want to see Kamille again, send a like.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be on another episode. This was really fun, so.
Yeah, I could probably find us another disturbing book to read.
Yeah, that would be great. I love it.
All right. Well, thank you again, and we'll see you again.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thank you for turning the pages with us this week. If you've enjoyed this episode, show your support on social media. Don't forget to turn on your notifications to get a reminder of the next episode. Thanks again for listening to The Book Stop. Bye!